Hello, this is Pastor Deborah again, and welcome to another episode of Spiritual Babylon, the ancient history, to help us understand what in the world is going on here on planet Earth and what has been in our governments, in our cities, in our homes, in our nations, and where it all began. We've been working through a study that I did so I could understand the kingdom of darkness ruled by Satan, who used to be Lucifer, the son of light, the son of the first age, the son of the morning, who was never a son of God, and who, through the lust of his eyes, the lust of his flesh, and the pride of his life, and greed and jealousy of God and God's glory, his heart became lifted up in great pride, and God brought forth a fire out of him of never being satisfied, always greedy and lusting for things that were not his. So he got cast down from the high third heaven, called the kingdom of heaven, as lightning to the earth, and we got to deal with him. And when he got cast out, the only kind of kingdom he knew, government system, was the kingdom of heaven. But so he began down here on planet Earth to build his kingdom, called the kingdom of darkness. And he began with humanity, who got kicked out of the Garden of Eden due to disobeying a command of do not eat from the tree of good and evil. For in the day that you eat of it, you will surely die. Humanity, through our great-grandfather and grandmother, Adam and woman, who was not named Eve until she came out of the garden. Eve means the mother of all living, and the only living thing in humanity was the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. The spirit part of us, Adam, the man, was dead to God. We lost the light, the relationship. We lost our family. We got kicked out of the kingdom. And we got kicked out and had to leave the Garden of Eden. So this Satan, the adversary of God and humanity, started building his kingdom of darkness on earth. And he began through man many, many years after we got kicked out. Those are a lot of wonderful stories. But here in this teaching, called Spiritual Babylon, we're learning the history. There was an actual earthly city and land, a kingdom called Babylon. It was an ancient empire and a city, and it had customs and culture and tradition, religious concepts, and it was ruled by a mighty hunter who would hunt both animals and humans and anything before the eyes of the Lord. And his name was Nimrod. Nimrod was an ancient ancestor all the way back to Adam. He came from the family line of Cain, who had killed his own brother Abel out of jealousy and spilled Abel's blood on the earth. Cain then went and he created a whole mess of people. And all the earth got so bad, everyone. God said, I'm going to destroy it with a flood. All civilizations have the story of a flood. But God spoke to one man named Noah, who had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. He said, you build an ark, you take your family, take their wives, take animals, I'll bring them to you 2 by 2, male and female, and you go on the ark while this flood comes. Probably took him thousands of years to build the ark before the flood came. Then it started raining, and God sent Noah and his family into the ark. The animals had come, he shut the door, and who knows how long they floated on the waters that flooded the whole earth. Now, everybody sees a rainbow. Is that right? That's right. What the rainbow is, it is a vow from God to humanity, all of nature, that he would never again destroy the earth, the creatures, and humanity by water. That was his vow when you see the rainbow. No, in the future, it will all be done by fire, not water. So here in this teaching, we're learning about the real Babylon on earth. And Nimrod, who came out of the ancestral line of Ham from Noah, due to a curse that was put on Ham's son, Cain. No, that was put on Ham's son. That's another story. So, here we are. We are thousands of years since the flood. There's lots of people. Humanity had multiplied. And now Nimrod shows up and says, we're going to build us a city. They were told to spread out over all the world, and they didn't. They stopped in the plain of Shinar. And they started building. And Nimrod, who had become a mighty hunter before the Lord, means I'm going to do anything I want to do. I'm going to kill humans, animals, right before your eyes. And he had done that. And Nimrod did things before, right in front of the eyes of the Lord and other humans that were considered by God rebellious, and made the people also to rebel before the Lord. If you're a leader and you teach people to rebel against the rule and the laws of God, of the kingdom of heaven, you're following your ancestor, Nimrod. That's right. Now let's pick up here in episode number 2, where we're going to continue. Now you open your eyes, your heart, and your mind, and you listen, and you learn. We're told by the historian Josephus. Have you studied all these historians and ancient philosophers? I've studied Buddha, Taoism, Confucius, ancient China, poets. Have you studied Scientology, Islam, Catholicism, Protestantism? Have you studied the Vikings and their Druid kings? Have you studied ancient slavery? Have you studied religion from the ancient days of Nimrod? That is a must if you want to learn truth and know how come this world is in such a mess. So the historian Josephus told us that Nimrod made the people to be glad that they did not spread out over the whole world as the Lord had commanded that they do. God was trying to repopulate the world, but the people stopped in the land of Shinar and started building a tower for Nimrod. It says by Josephus that the people were afraid to be scattered all over the world, and thus they would be alone and unable to protect themselves from the wild animals. Fear of death will cause you to break the law that God gave you. And that's what they did. Nimrod, we are told, seemed to promise safety, pleasures, protection, and building of a name, a reputation for themselves and their city, Babylon. And that they would be Babylonian citizens. And out of the fear of death from the wild animals, Nimrod was able to convince the people to settle down and build a great city. Sometimes people need a great foe, something to be afraid of, in order to violate the rules, in order to go against what it was righteous commands of this person. So Nimrod was good at convincing the people that don't follow this God's command. Just stay right here. I'll protect you. I'll take care of you. We'll build a city. We'll put some walls up. and the wild animals can't get in, then he, Nimrod, would strongly encourage them to build other cities. Spread out, take this pattern of cities, and build a great tower to reach up into the heavens. You see that a lot in ancient Chinese movies. The towers that they used to reach high up. Churches are the same way. Cathedrals are the same way. And when people couldn't build high up, they'd go high up in the mountains. What were they doing? They were trying to get back to heaven. They were trying to get closer to this God where they knew somehow they were supposed to be. And that up was where this God was. And they wanted to be as close to him as they could be on the earth. So a kingdom always needed land, resources. A king who claimed ownership of the land and the resources and would be a 100% ruler, have full authority, dominion, power over all, the land, the resources, the people, the cattle, everything, the culture, the traditions, marriages, everything, children, schools, military, even death itself. The great king of every city could control. And all would belong to the king. This was Satan's heart. I will own everybody, own everything. You will serve me and please me only. Number 4, the king, then by building cities, ruling land, and having complete ownership and dominion over everything, the king's world, the king's word became law. He was the judge and the lawgiver. He gave life and death. He could do with you whatever he wanted. He was the law. Number 5. The king then would need workers. Food grown for him. Weapons made. Bricks made. Clothes made. Food cooked. Wild animals killed. And he would need lots of brides, women. He had to fulfill the lust of his flesh with sex and pleasure. He needed musicians. He needed everything to be glorious. Now remember, this was Satan working through the flesh of humanity, trying to have all that his former king, creator, and God had in heaven. Satan was on the move to build his kingdom through humanity in the natural world. So he had to use the flesh, the mind, the physical body, and even the dead spirit. All belonged to Satan, and he was using them all to build his kingdom. Number 6, so some people became slaves, workers, laborers, and the king had to care for them or he just killed them. The king had all rights to your life. You either lived or died by his word. He ruled. He sat on a throne. You can see that in ancient Chinese historical dramas. You can see that in English kings. Kings all over the world. They lived in special houses. Even presidents, prime ministers lived that way. Number 7, the king also could have as many women or children or boys or girls or sex. And he could have them for as long as he wanted. They belonged to him. They were his property. That's the heart of Satan, the spiritual king of Babylon, working through humanity. You see that a lot. People are just slaves to be sold, to be used up, thrown away, used for pleasure, used for work. Nobody was free except the king. Number 8. Then the king needed advisors, counselors, ministers to help with the cities. He needed generals and warriors to fight, judges to carry out his laws of justice, managers to manage the building and the cities and the finances. Number 9. And this king of every city, he was as Nimrod. All of humanity was an unholy spirit, no light from God, considered dead to God in the kingdom of heaven. They were unclean, unrighteous, sentenced to death spiritually. That means separation. They were unholy, both in their soul, which was considered the helpmate of the spirit, and in their spirit. Then, inside of the spirit, and even the mind of humanity, there could be a realm of demonic spirits, of the fallen ones, who were spiritually connected to Satan, who sat in the second heaven. Satan wasn't going to leave any room for humanity to rule itself. He was going to rule through man's mind, their soul, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life. He was going to rule the spirit because they were dead to God. So he put himself inside of our spirits, and he put on disguises and made himself out to be God to our spirit. Our spirit knew nothing. They were dead. They had no light. And our soul, who was supposed to be the helpmate of the spirit, did. But the soul also became powerful through the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. The second heaven, where Satan set up his kingdom. Here's how it works. Around the earth, our atmosphere is called the first heaven, where the clouds are, maybe even the sun and the stars, where gravity is. That's the first heaven. The second heaven, land, territory, was where Satan was. And the third heaven was where God, the God of creation, and all of the kingdom of heaven was. All right? You have to understand that. So Satan, sitting on his throne in the second heaven, above the earth, over all flesh, probably all of the solar system, stars and suns and planets, that's all flesh because we could see it. He was building his kingdom of darkness. Darkness means ignorance, confusion, no light of God, no truth, no righteousness, no freedom. And he was constructing on earth, in the realm of the natural, the seen world, of what his defiled and perverted heart's memory had of the kingdom of heaven. Cities and towers and structures and mansions and temples, throne rooms, castles, streets of gold, storehouses, gold and glitter, all the governmental systems, the gardens, the many lands, and of course the courtroom of the judge. He had memories of the books, prayer and praise, altars, lights and rays. Satan had learned he must organize himself and his fallen ones into great cities, kingdoms, as he remembered the best that he could how the kingdom of heaven was. And guess how he did it? He hid himself in the second heaven, and inside the dirt body and the mind and the spirit of humanity. He would put his ministers inside of a human spirit that was inside of a dirt body, you. Just as he had done in the Garden of Eden in a serpent that spoke to woman about taking and eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That was during the first age of the Garden of Eden on earth. The Garden of Eden was a special spot that God had put here on the planet in the flesh, but it was a spiritual place that was supposed to expand out into all the world, but it didn't. And in that spiritual place, Satan went inside of a serpent. We believe that serpent had 4 legs, and then it was made into a snake with no legs. But he was spiritually in there. He did not want to show his real face, because he had already fallen out of heaven. He was a grotesque-looking individual, perverted and twisted and ugly now. No longer an angel, a messenger of light, beautiful and glorious. And we hopefully will get to his descriptions. It was gorgeous. So in the garden he went into a dirt body, a serpent. So he had familiarity with human flesh and dirt and animals. I've seen him in trees and animals, water and the sky and the wind. I've seen him in humans. You have to look through the gift of discerning of spirits to see that. He became a hidden one. He was spiritually there, but undetected to the soul, and probably to the spirit. If he did show himself to the spirit, he dressed up as a glorious king, righteousness, or a wonderful-looking person to convince you to even let him in. Some people willingly let them in, and then they find out they're not as nice as they're supposed to be. And I will stop here, because this is a lot to take in, and we'll pick up with what in the world does he do on the inside of us. All right, this is Pastor Deborah. Go back, go slow, take notes, study, and you'll learn and grow. All right, bye-bye.